And all because the lady loves milk tray. Okay, I'm going to do a film review. In fact, not just one, two. Let's get this in. Two film reviews. Okay, well, when we think about movies set in high schools or secondary school, they fall into three broad categories. The first is the one where the students are basically the heroes, and they're put upon by stuffy or overly strict teachers. The second is where the students are troublesome and they're troublemakers, but a nice liberal understanding teacher comes in who has unorthodox teaching methods, and he inspires them, or she inspires them. Sorry, Michelle Pfeiffer. And the third one is the one I want to talk about, and that's the one where the teacher's the hero and the students are utterly evil. And the two best films, my two favourite films in this kind of subgenre, are Unman, Wittering and Zigo, a British movie released in 1971, and Class of 1984, an American film released in 1982. The future. Anyway, so I'll deal with Unman, Wittering and Zigo first. So this is a film directed by John Mackenzie, who later went on to direct Long Good Friday. It stars David Hemmings as a newly qualified teacher who takes up a teaching post in a remote English private school. He's taking over from a teacher who has recently died by falling down a cliff, and it's a fantastic opening scene in the film, well worth it. And so he takes over this class, and this class has a troubled reputation. You know, the students are considered a bit unruly and hard to handle. And right on the first day, he introduces himself and he's trying to get settled down to teaching this class, and the students are doing their own thing. They open the windows when they want to, they sit where they want, they just basically talk over him. And when David Hemmings tries to assert his authority, the students just calmly tell him that it was they who had murdered the previous teacher, and that they'll do the same to him unless he starts obeying them. So it sets up for a great battle of wills between the students and the teacher, where the teacher is very isolated. He can't tell anybody about what the children said. He doesn't know whether to believe them at first, but gradually throughout the film there are clues that suggest that the students actually did murder their teacher, and they're a psychotic lot. I mean, they're a psychotic lot anyway through the way they act and behave, but they're murderous as well. And he gets no support from his fellow teachers, in particular the headmaster. He's got a wife who's sympathetic, but he can't really bring her all the way into what he knows. And of course the police have just ruled the previous teacher's death as an accident. So David Hemmings' character is very much isolated. What's fascinating about the film is the portrayal of the students. They act as a kind of collective, a hive mind. They all act as one, which makes it very difficult for Hemmings to kind of break them as a unit, because they just are they act and think all as one. So you get this, the way the scenes are set up is really good, where one of the students will begin sort of issuing a threat to the teacher, and then they kind of peter out at the end of a sentence. Then a second student will then continue, and then a third student will take over from that and forth, without ever sort of stepping over each other. So Hemmings' attention is always diverted. He can never focus on one student as a ringleader. We never really find out if there is a ringleader in this class. So there's a caste system going on. So half the students are very intelligent and cunning and manipulative, and they kind of run the show. They come up with the schemes. And the second group of the students are the less intelligent, more physically adept ones. They're the enforcers. They're the ones that kind of bully and harass their way, and they're the threat behind the pronouncements of the more intelligent students. And what's also good is that the students themselves, they all have these false, soulless smiles, and as they announce what they're going to do, you know, it's kind of like, yes sir, if you don't do what we say, we're going to kill you. And it's kind of, they're utterly soulless, these children, and they're the sons and daughters of privilege. And you just think, if left unchecked, these people go to become prominent leaders of society, but they act in this kind of very authoritarian, aggressive manner, but it's all kind of passive aggressive. And it's a fantastic film. It's got some great psychological dark drama in it, and very scary scenes when the students start turning their attentions onto David Hemmings' wife, played by Carolyn Seymour. And it's a fantastic film, and I do recommend it. If there is a weak spot, it's the ending itself. The film builds to a climax with all this threat, and the ending is not a whiz-bang ending. It's not a kind of a visceral, satisfying ending, but it does make sense with the rest of the film. At least it doesn't come out of nowhere and kind of wrong foot the viewer. It makes sense, but it's just not the big punch, the big bang that you want from a film that has set itself up as this great psychological thriller beforehand. So the second film is Class of 1984, which is a lot more exploitative B-movie fare. It's directed by Mark L. Lester, not the child actor from Oliver, an American director, and it's real. It's lurid, it's extremely violent, it's in your face, it's aggressive. So this is a rundown in a city school where all the students are tooled up with knives, and there's, from a film made in 1982, the students go in and there's metal detectors at the front door, something that would later come true in reality in American schools, but it's here in this earlier film, and it stars I think it's Perry King, who was in the TV series Riptide, as this nice liberal teacher, music teacher, coming in, wants to do good, and he's just given this bunch of punks and thugs to teach, and they're violent and they're aggressive and they're in your face. There's a few nice students who want to learn, and so he sort of gravitates towards them, but he's constantly harassed by them, and he's having these battles of wills. And instead of the hive mind of Unman, Wittering and Zigo, in Class of 1984, the students are gathered around a charismatic, strongman leader, played by Timothy Van Patten, called Stegman. And he is so utterly evil and vicious in it. But you can understand why he's the charismatic leader. He plays the part really well. Another actor I should mention who's in this and is brilliant is Roddy McDowall. Roddy McDowall plays an older teacher who's stressed and harassed, being ground down by the job. And in the film's best scene, he snaps, he loses it, and he takes a pistol into his class and he holds the class of punks at gunpoint, forcing them to learn biology. And it's absolutely brilliant. You see the facade, the tough facade of the gang sort of crumble as this little guy who's been put upon and has played by the rules all his life has finally got the edge on them. It's a very visceral film with a kind of, it turns into a kind of slasher film towards the end. Has a very satisfying payoff. If you've come this far and if you like your schlocky kind of visceral B-movie fare, the ending of Class of 1984, even though it's quite horrific, it is very satisfying from that point of view. So, Unman, Wittering and Zigo is the better quality film, and it's one that you'll keep coming back to, and you'll keep watching it and getting more and more out of it with each viewing. Whereas Class of 1984, that's a popcorn film. Grab the beers, grab the popcorn, grab your mates, and then go and watch a great bit of exploitation schlock. So anyway, that's my two top recommendations on a theme of utterly evil high school students and heroic teachers. So if you can think of any more in this subgenre, please comment down below. So until next time, I'll see you later.